Following that up, Andy, in your opinion, and you've got 40 years of experience, this disease we talk about, in your opinion, do you feel it's genetic in most cases?
I think that that's one component. I don't, I'm not here to say that it's true in every case. I think I have not tried heroin, but when I talk to people who have, it is such a powerful drug that gives such a powerful feeling, and I don't know really even how to describe it. I'll just use the word elation or relaxation or absence of any kind of troubles, and I'm not doing it justice. But I think you can take that drug for the first time, and I'm sure others, and then it takes on a life of its own. So I think that while there probably is for sure a genetic component in some addictions, that I don't think that that's necessarily the only explanation for people that become addicted.
Andy, you've been associated with the North Shore Child and Family Guidance Center for 40 years. Talk about the process. I'm fascinated to know the process when someone in the throes of drug abuse comes to the North Shore Child and Family Guidance Center and similar facilities like your own. What's the process like from beginning, and what you try to accomplish with that person in the throes of the drug abuse?
Well, the first thing is that we have an intake department that will take a phone call, which is usually how somebody comes to us. Occasionally there'll be a walk-in, but primarily it's a phone call. It's a referral from a parent will call. They maybe were referred by the school or by a pediatrician, and they make that first phone call. And the first thing that we have to understand is that it took a lot to make that first phone call. For the reasons I referred to before, because of stigma, because the world looking at the problems that your child might have as a reflection of your being an inadequate parent or a bad parent, or your child, having a low character or being weak-willed in some way, it makes that first phone call so difficult. And so we have people trained at that other end of the phone call to be able to take it in a very sensitive way, to provide support over the phone, to help that individual who's making that call, maybe for the first time, to feel that there's a place that they've made a contact with that's welcoming them, that's understanding them, that's providing and potentially providing the support that they need. So we have to take the information, and quite often when it's a drug or alcohol issue, the presenting problem, as we refer to it, what the parent or the individual is telling us when they call on the telephone, may not tell the whole story. In fact, probably it doesn't. So the person on the phone has to ask some questions, almost like a check-off list, but not in such an impersonal way, such as, are there drug and alcohol issues? Is your child using? Are they drinking? Are they smoking pot? Are they taking any other substances? Is anybody else in the family? We want to know if there's use in the family, as an example. Or they may call and directly say it's a drug issue. In that case, we will take the information and then make an appointment for them to meet with one of our professionals, social worker or a mental health counselor, and then possibly also one of our psychiatrists. But one thing to keep in mind, because you asked about the process, is we have to also ask them how they're going to pay for this. And we accept all insurances, and so we turn no one away for inability to pay. But for many people, the process gets cut short because they're told that we don't accept that insurance anymore. This is a much bigger issue that I won't get into right in a moment, But if someone has taken days and weeks and months and maybe even years to make that first phone call, and then they're told we don't accept your insurance and we only take out-of-pocket payment, and they can't afford that, then the door gets slammed in their face. So once we make that first appointment, they come in, we meet with the whole family, not necessarily all together. We do what we refer to as a family history. We try to understand as much as we can about the family, and also the history of the problem that they're presenting to us, to understand what might have triggered it, what was going on in the family's or the individual's life. Were there any changes or losses or separation, anything that might have happened over a period of time. We try to understand their strengths as well as their difficulties and weaknesses, so to speak, to get as comprehensive a picture as we can so that we can develop a plan which, together with the family, we would discuss at the next meeting with goals in order to move forward, and a plan for whether they'll be meeting with someone individually. We always work with the family. We do a lot of work in groups, talk about addiction being a disease of isolation. Group involvement is really critical, making that transition from the only relationship being to the drug to being with other people, to feel, connected with other people, not only to be someone who's getting help, but to giving help. One of the great things about the recovery movement and the 12-step model is giving back and helping other people. So that's what we do, and then we work with people, until we try to work in a time-limited fashion to reach certain goals that we all agree to, and then we have an ending with people. It shouldn't be an abrupt ending. It should be a goodbye that takes into consideration everything that's been worked on, what goals have been reached, what challenges still exist, and we keep the door open so that if people want to come back at some point, that we can certainly welcome them back. And we're a kids agency, so we work with young kids, we work with really young kids, with school-age kids, teenagers, young adults, and so for the younger kids, sometimes there's one issue when they're 7 or 8 years old, and maybe another when they're 13 and 14, and then maybe something else when they're 18 or 19. So there are quite a few times that people will come back, providing that they feel that this is a comfortable, welcoming, stigma-free place for them.
Absolutely. Andy, we talked about basically depression, anxiety, drug abuse, bullying, basically all being under the same umbrella as mental health. And this is our third week of devoting entire shows to these important issues, raising awareness. And earlier in a different segment, when we were talking about a horrible tragedy that happened over the weekend where 13-year-old Brendan Carr took his own life here in Long Beach, we had a mom, Jacqueline Riglio, came and shared about her son who took his own life in December, high school senior. And I think that all these shows are raising awareness. People talking about our very first show, we had several people in recovery talked about their experiences and their journeys being on drugs, and now they're in treatment. And now tonight on a suicide, we had a mother talk about losing her son. So, general picture, having these shows where people can share, and last show over 18,000 people were reached. What do you think the impact that these shows will have and is having, and making it a monthly thing where we're giving people in this community a voice to talk about these crucial issues?
It's critical because what we're talking about is a public health issue. And when you're dealing with a public health issue, there are different levels of intervention. And the highest level of intervention is really is when you're addressing the worst case scenario. Someone who has an overdose, had an overdose, someone who has taken action to take their lives. This is the end line in the work that needs to be done in public health. On the other end of so that's one end of the continuum where the situation is about as bad as it can be, and then you need the most intensive and expensive intervention possible. Earlier intervention is really about community education. And so certainly a program like this that brings people who've gone through certain experiences with their children and their families themselves, together with people in the field who are working with this every day, along with peers of kids who are suffering, teachers perhaps, counselors and so forth, giving a voice to those people so it doesn't go underground, allowing this information and these experiences to be shared so that maybe somebody out there who does feel alone, isolated, disconnected, unattached, maybe a light goes off and maybe they say, I'm going to call that place, or I'm going to call that person, or I'm going to see about coming on that show and talking about my experience. I'm going to come out of the shadows because I'm not alone, because this is a bigger problem. And not only am I going to take steps to help myself, but I'm going to take steps to try to help others. I think when that can happen, I think in the context of public health, a program like this is really just a must, and it's fantastic.
Andy, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing. We've come to the end of the segment. And folks, just a reminder, please watch the videos. You're going to hear a lot of people speaking from the heart. Halftime Howie Show on Facebook, Halftime Howie on YouTube. Andy Malakoff can be reached at the North Shore Child and Family Guidance Center. His thoughts are brilliant, and we appreciate his input. And folks, we're going to be here. We're going to do a 2-week back-to-back shows on these issues, so please feel free to join us on October 16th here at Poncho's at 7 o'clock. With that focus that night will be on suicide, anxiety, depression, and preventing bullying. And on the 23rd, the impact of the drug crisis in our society. So they all come under the same umbrella of mental health, but we're going to devote 2 full weeks to these issues every single week. And just like tonight, several people came in who saw our posts on Facebook and they shared, especially a mom and a girlfriend who are still hurting over the loss of Danny. So we welcome others to come and share on the 16th and the 23rd, and we're going to bring top people, experts in the field like Andy, to share. And together we can and we will make a difference, and we will raise awareness. And I promise everyone in the Long Beach community, your voices will be heard. Thank you.